A dog tears open a cushion, lowers its head, and avoids your eyes. A human makes a mistake, remembers who might discover it, imagines the judgment, and wishes to disappear. Both look uncomfortable. But are they feeling the same thing? Shame seems ancient, automatic, and almost physical. Yet it depends on invisible rules, remembered audiences, and an idea of the self that can be damaged. Animals clearly experience fear, stress, submission, attachment, and social defeat. What remains uncertain is whether they experience shame. In the fully human sense, to understand the difference, we have to follow shame from animal social behavior into the strange human world of reputation, language, law, clothing, religion, and memory. Shame is more than feeling bad. Psychologists usually place it among the self-conscious emotions, alongside embarrassment, guilt, and pride. These emotions require a creature to evaluate itself against a standard. Fear says danger is near. Pain says the body has been harmed. Shame says something more complicated. I have been seen, or may be seen, as less worthy. Guilt often focuses on an action, something I did, while shame can spread across the whole identity. What this action appears to reveal about me, that difference helps explain why shame produces hiding, lowered posture, silence, denial, or the urge to repair one's standing. But this is where the title becomes less certain than it sounds. Scientists cannot enter an animal's private experience, prove that no animal ever feels anything resembling shame. Many social species monitor rank, respond to disapproval, avoid aggression, reconcile after conflict, and change behavior when watched. Primates communicate emotion through faces, voices, gestures, and posture. Dogs are exceptionally attentive to human tone and body language. These abilities create some of the raw materials from which shame could evolve. Still, recognizing anger or submitting to a dominant animal is not automatically the same as judging oneself against an abstract social rule. The famous guilty dog illustrates the problem. Owners often interpret a lowered head, tucked tail, flattened ears, and cautious movement as confession. Yet an experimental study found that the so-called guilty look appeared more strongly when owners scolded their dogs. Whether or not the dogs had actually disobeyed, the behavior tracked the owner's cues better than the animal's knowledge of wrongdoing. The dog may be trying to reduce conflict, not reviewing the past and concluding, I violated a moral standard. It looks like shame from the outside, maybe appeasement, anxiety, or learned anticipation of punishment. The deeper difference is not that humans are social and animals are not. It is the extraordinary complexity of human social evaluation. Our ancestors survived through cooperation, sharing food, caring for children, defending one another, exchanging knowledge, and choosing reliable partners. In such groups, being devalued could mean losing support, opportunities, protection, or access to resources. Evolutionary accounts, therefore, describe shame as a system that helps people anticipate reputational damage, conceal damaging information, reduce behaviors likely to provoke rejection, and respond when social value falls. Shame hurts because social standing once carried serious consequences. That system required several abilities working together. Humans can form a continuing story about who they are. They can imagine how another person sees them, pair that imagined judgment with a shared standard, remember a failure long after the audience has left, and worry about people who are not even present. Language allows communities to name violations, spread reputations, preserve rules, and tell stories about honorable or disgraceful behavior. A person can feel shame in an empty room because the audience has been reconstructed inside the mind. Childhood reveals how this machinery develops. Infants show distress and seek approval, but complex self-conscious emotions depend on emerging and knowledge of external standards. As children learn to recognize themselves, understand other minds, and absorb family and community expectations, they become capable of evaluating their own behavior. Parents, siblings, teachers, and peers do not merely punish actions, they teach what kind of person is admired, laughed at, trusted, excluded, praised, or blamed. In a few years, the child acquires a social mirror that can remain active even when nobody is watching. And this brings history into the story. Shame did not suddenly appear. When the first law was written, it was probably operating long before cities, kingdoms, or formal religion. But larger societies gave it more targets and more organized power. Small communities could regulate conduct through face-to-face reputation. States, courts, temples, armies, guilds, and households created named ranks and duties. They distinguished legitimate from illegitimate, honorable from dishonorable, pure from impure, properly dressed from improperly exposed, obedient from rebellious. Shame became attached not only to harmful actions, but also to status, occupation, poverty, defeat, sexuality, family reputation, and the body. Different periods aimed that pressure at different people. A warrior might fear cowardice more than nakedness. A merchant might fear public bankruptcy. A courtier might fear ridicule. A craft worker expulsion from a guild. And a family the loss of marriage prospects. Public punishments often worked by turning the crowd into part of the penalty. The body could be displayed, marked, dressed, undressed, positioned, or excluded in ways designed to communicate lowered standing. The suffering was not only physical, it announced that the community had revised its judgment of the person. Yet, shame was never one universal rulebook. Ancient, medieval, and modern societies disagreed about which clothing, foods, occupations, relationships, bodily functions, and displays were disgraceful. One culture could honor what another condemned. One social class could perform an action openly, while another was punished for it. Men and women were often judged by different standards, as were rulers and subjects, citizens and outsiders, adults and children. Emotion may draw on an evolved sensitivity to devaluation, but culture supplies much of the content. Humans inherit the alarm system. Societies decide what sets it off. Even the posture of shame may contain an older biological layer. Research comparing sighted, blind, and congenitally blind athletes found similar reactions to victory and defeat, including behaviors associated with pride and shame, because athletes blind from birth could not have learned those displays simply by watching others. The findings support the possibility that parts of the response are deeply rooted, yet culture still modifies. People display, suppress, redirect, or reinterpret those reactions. Biology may provide a lowered head and contracted posture. History determines whether the trigger is military failure, unpaid debt, forbidden desire, poor clothing, public poverty, or disappointing an imagined audience. Modern life did not eliminate shame. It multiplied the possible audience, expanding schools, bureaucracies, newspapers, photography, advertising, cinema, and eventually digital media allowed standards to travel farther than the village or court. People learned to compare their appearance, manners, income, education, nationality, productivity, and private behavior with images distributed on a massive scale. The judging crowd no longer needed to stand nearby. Camera, record, rumor, examination, or anonymous comment could make social evaluation feel permanent. The human capacity to imagine an audience entered institutions capable of preserving and broadcasting judgment. This explains why shame can protect cooperation and also become destructive. In moderate form, it may discourage behavior likely to damage relationships or status. A person who anticipates social disapproval may reconsider deception, betrayal, neglect, or selfishness. The visible shame response, lowered gaze, collapsed posture, reduced confidence, may also signal submission and reduce aggression from others. But shame can expand beyond any useful boundary. When a society marks an identity, body, illness, class, disability, or background as defective, people may hide parts of themselves that caused no harm. Persistent shame is associated with withdrawal, damaged self-worth, and serious psychological distress. Guilt can sometimes direct attention toward repair. I harmed someone, so I should apologize or make amends. Shame can instead produce the conclusion that the entire self is unacceptable. That may encourage hiding, anger, blame, denial, or escape. This is why humiliating people does not reliably improve them. The emotion evolved around social survival, not perfect moral reasoning. It reacts to the possibility of devaluation, whether the community's standard is wise, cruel, arbitrary, or false. So, why do humans feel shame, while animals apparently do not? The safest answer is that animals possess important pieces of the system, including social sensitivity, submission, memory, and responses to observation. We do not have convincing evidence that they combine those pieces into the fully reflective experience humans describe as shame. Humans can turn themselves into an object of judgment. Imagine other minds, compare their identity with symbolic rules, and carry an absent audience through time. History then builds institutions, customs, and technologies that tell that inner audience what to condemn. Shame is therefore neither merely a modern invention nor a simple animal reflex. It is an ancient social warning, transformed by language and culture. It helped humans navigate dependence on one another, but it also allowed communities to control people by threatening belonging and reputation. The same emotion that can stop betrayal can also silence difference. The same social mirror that encourages responsibility can become distorted. The next time an animal appears guilty, notice the behavior, without pretending certainty about the private feeling behind it. And the next time shame rises in a human mind, ask a different question. Not only what rule was broken, but who created that rule, whom it protects, and whether the threatened judgment deserves authority. If you enjoy discovering how evolution, ancient societies, and changing customs shaped ordinary human behavior, subscribe for more hidden history. We'll see you in the next video.